Hey, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Nier on the Xbox 360. This is also available on the PlayStation 3, and I think it might be also available on the PC. I would like to get the PlayStation 3 version of this, honestly. I hate to sound like a fanboy, but usually if the port isn't terribly worse than the Xbox 360 version, with if the developers actually take their time and program the game properly for the PlayStation 3, there's usually a decent amount of console parity. And this game isn't really graphically intensive in any way, so I can't imagine them really screwing this up. And this also sold better on the PlayStation 3, at least in Japan, where they actually, I believe they got like a greatest hits version, or their form of it, or whatever they call, versus the Xbox 360. Like, I remember looking up a picture of this game being on sale in Japan, and all the Nier games were sold out, and on the PlayStation 3 versus the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 aisle had a lot of games left on it, which is kind of funny, just because there's just some sort of aversion to people in Japan not typically getting like non-Japanese consoles. But anyway, yeah, I'm showing you all this extra stuff because there's not a lot of variety in gameplay in this video. I apologize, but again, this is an RPG. It's pretty heavy-handed in story, and I don't want to spoil anything. I kind of just want to show you what this game is about. You might recall me playing Drakengard 3 earlier. I guess I recorded it earlier this year, and I said that Nier is a spin-off of the Drakengard games. It's kind of weird. Drakengard 3 is actually a prequel. You think they would have gave it a fancier name. And again, I'll say that game's actually way better than the reviews would lead you to believe. I really like the artwork, and I'm glad that I actually ignored the reviews like I typically do. I just get a game that appeals to me by just reading the back of the box, or if I see it and I just really like the artwork to that. But Nier's a spin-off of the Drakengard games. I believe Nier, and I never beat the original Drakengard, so I'm just going based on what I read. Believe it or not, I actually did some research on this game a while back, so it'll probably be wrong anyway. But I did some research on this game, and Nier is based on, apparently Drakengard had multiple endings, and Nier is based off of the fifth ending, whatever that means, but this is that universe. Just like Drakengard 3, I didn't really notice it in the original Drakengard, but maybe it's because I don't remember much about it. I never got into the Drakengard or Drakengard 2. They just, I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me. It felt like Dynasty Warriors with dragons in it, and I don't remember any sci-fi elements or anything like that in the game, like the whole post-apocalyptic thing. Like you'll see, I like the little loading screen that you have there. Some of the enemies in this game are kind of hard to fight because they most look like alphabetical characters and stuff like that. Also, this whole transparent widescreen thing is a little weird to me. At first, I thought maybe I had my recording device hooked up wrong and something wasn't going through, but it wouldn't make any sense for that. That was somehow an artistic choice, a very interesting one, but whatever, I'll go with it. The more obscure the better. I always like seeing games with things that I've never seen before, and even though the graphics look like a slightly updated PlayStation 2 title, it is appealing. But if you actually, and you'll see some parts where I'm kind of looking at the graphics and stuff like that and the texture work, if you tilt the camera, like the texture filtering on this game's like pretty bad. If you tilt the camera to look like at the floor close up at an angle, it'll literally look like sharp PlayStation 1 textures that are all like pixelated, like nothing's smoothed out. That's why I think the PlayStation 3 version will probably play just as well as this. I just like playing on the PlayStation 3. It just feels more familiar to me. I don't have anything against the Xbox 360. I've tried going back to other systems. Like, I adopted the Dreamcast, and for a while there was some games I really wanted to play on the original Xbox, like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and I got that and stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know. I always feel like I'm playing something foreign or somebody else's console, and there's just some slight uncomfortable feel. And you think I would feel that way with the PlayStation 4, because the PlayStation 4 is really like the first PlayStation 3 controller that feels like totally different. It's a little bit bulkier. I do think the analog sticks and the triggers are way better than the PlayStation 3, but it still feels like a PlayStation controller. I don't know if I feel that way if I got the Xbox One. So there has to be some really good titles. Right now, the only thing out that I would really like to play on the Xbox One is that Rare collection that they have. Sunset Overdrive, Halo 5. I'd probably get the Master Chief collection, but they don't have Reach on that, which is bizarre to me. I like the Gears of War games, but there's so many games out there like Gears of War, really don't care. But the reason why I got this on Xbox 360, I did have a choice. I was kind of low on cash, but I really wanted to play this game because it just looked unique, and the further I get excited about it, I happened to watch Mark Bussler's A Classic Game Room review of this, and it showed more footage beside just the beginning of this, and it just looked like a really cool game. I was gonna get it like either way. I just didn't know much about this game. I don't know how it like slipped off my radar, and the only thing I can think of is that the artwork on the box is very generic, and the back of the boxes to show you the gameplay footage, you just see this barbarian like macho guy. You don't really get a sense of like how weird the style is, and I didn't really know until they announced like a Nier sequel for the PlayStation 4 exclusive that looks amazing. Like Platinum Studios are involved. When I heard Platinum Studios are involved, I'm like, I gotta see what Nier 1's about. But I don't think Platinum, I'm pretty sure, matter of fact, that Platinum isn't involved, but they do kind of have Platinum styles wackiness for this game. It's like really bizarre. Like right now it kind of reminds me of like The Last of Us, like you're just like in some random department store and the world's gone to shit. I'm kind of curious what the 5th ending of Drakengard was, and I want to get back to that game, but I might hold off on playing this game till I get the PlayStation 3 version. But the reason why I held off on the PlayStation 3 version is I went to GameStop. I mean, I can easily order a PlayStation 3 version, but I just like that feeling of finding stuff in the wild, and for whatever reason, maybe they didn't make as many copies on the PlayStation 3, but the PlayStation 3 copy costs $10 more than the Xbox 360 copy for some reason. So I had a choice between an $8 copy and I believe the PlayStation one was like $20. I think it was a bit more than $10, and I was like, maybe that's just GameStop's price. And I looked online, and no, like usually the PlayStation 3 copy costs $10 more. And another interesting fact is the copy in Japan of the PlayStation 3 version, I can't remember what the Xbox 360 version is called, but this is the Xbox 360 version, and the PlayStation 3 version that came out here is a port of the Xbox 360 version. And for some reason, even though the Xbox 360 version sold less, I think the Xbox 360 version's canon. Like, that little girl is your daughter in this one, but the PlayStation 3 version, which I believe is called Replicant, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of new to the Nier series, but you play as like this more effeminate anime looking dude, you know, like how some of the, I guess, the manga style, like male characters in games kind of have more effeminate qualities, and I guess maybe that appealed more to the Japanese audience beside it being on the PlayStation 3, which if you have like two different versions of a game, like on the Xbox 360 or an Xbox console versus a PlayStation console, the PlayStation version will always sell more in Japan, but I think that style of character might have appealed more, and the macho guy, I guess they felt would appeal more to a Western audience. Now, I don't know how the game was coded or whatever, but I imagine there was probably a port of the Xbox 360 version. But from what I've read, there's slight story differences, like the PlayStation 3 version, that little girl's like your sister, and this version it's your father, so I guess they have to address you differently. But they said pretty much beside that the game's exactly the same, and there's actually DLC where you get to play as the effeminate character. I don't know what the characters' names are, I just typed in Mikey as you saw in earlier. Yeah, this game's kind of weird. You're like leveling up like non-stop, but I think this is basically a glorified tutorial. The only thing with these enemy designs is they kind of blend in, but I can't wait till the sequel comes out. It looks awesome, and I would really like to play this, but I wasn't sure about spending a lot of money on this game until I actually played it, because I don't know, I didn't want to spend. I probably would have gotten the PlayStation 3 version even if it cost a bit more if I had a little bit extra cash, but there was that and the fact that it came in like this beat up, like black ripped up box, and I don't even think the disc was in the greatest greatest shape or whatever, and I was like, if I really like this game, which so far I really do, I'll eventually get the PlayStation 3 version. Just trade this in for the 5 cents I'll probably get for it. I don't know. But yeah, I would like to have the PlayStation 3 version before I progress further. And with these kind of action games, I feel like the PlayStation 3 controller is better suited for this type of game, in my opinion. I think the Xbox 360 controller is great for first-person shooters, and I think the analog sticks are better for driving games, but I even like the way the rest of the controller feels on the PlayStation 3 for driving games. Like, if the PlayStation 3 had the analog sticks that were as taut as the Xbox 360, like, I would say that the PlayStation 3 is superior. They fixed all that with the PlayStation 4 controller, and you can play the PlayStation 4 controller with most PS3 games, unless there's only one thing, like the buttons on the PlayStation 4 controller aren't pressure sensitive. In some games, there's not a lot of them, but some games do require you to have pressure sensitive controls, so that could be an issue. But yeah, like, if they switch to the PlayStation 4 analog sticks or the Xbox 360 ones, like, I think the PlayStation 3 controller would be perfect. Well, that and the triggers. I think the PlayStation 3 controller's triggers are pretty terrible. So pretty much a PlayStation 4 controller, in my opinion, is perfect. The only, except every time I say something's perfect, I think there's something wrong with it. I think the battery life on the PlayStation 4 controller is pretty pitiful, actually. Like, I've been trying to test out how long each controller lasts, and I've noticed playing a PlayStation 3 game, I can go days with playing on the PlayStation 3, because when I went to go play Ratchet and Clank, I actually had to finish the game after I started playing it. I didn't realize how much I really liked the game until I did a video, and I was like, let me play a little bit more of this. I kept on getting further, and then the next day I wanted to play something newer. I was like, let me play this game. I bought it like a few weeks ago or whatever. I want to get into it. I believe it was, what game was it? Trying to think of what I was playing on the PlayStation 4. It's not relevant. Anyway, I was playing something on the PlayStation 4, and I was like, I don't want to play anything until I finished Ratchet and Clank, and I beat the game in a few days after I did the video, and I was pretty stoked about that, because I think I got really far in the game, but I never finished it. And then the collection still has Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal. There always has like some sort of pun. And then I have all the PlayStation 3 games, so I'm pretty much set for Ratchet and Clank. And then a Ratchet and Clank game comes out when the movie comes out. I'm curious how that's gonna do, but it looks beautiful, and from what I've seen, it only costs like $40. So I'm like, alright, is this only part of the game? Why is this game so cheap? Because it's like a first party Insomniac game. I really hope they don't half-ass it, because, you know, I'm already sort of jealous that Insomniac made the awesome Sunset Overdrive for the Xbox One. So with this boss, when I first played this game, this isn't my first playthrough, I was trying to use all these melee attacks, but it seems like if you use your magic, this boss doesn't really have a chance against you. But the melee and stuff like that needs a little bit of work, so it's great that Platinum Studios is involved in the second game, which I think right now is like the master of making like action oriented, like brawling type games or whatever with melee combat, or what, like pretty much they made one of my favorite types of those games, which was Bayonetta, which makes me sad. I don't have a Wii U, so I can't play Bayonetta 2, and again, I don't think it sold that well, but I just don't see, even though Bayonetta didn't sell that well on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, I can't see people who own a Wii U going for the type of game that's Bayonetta. Like, if I got a Nintendo console, I would get a Nintendo console exclusively just to play the Nintendo games, because you know what? Out of all the consoles, and I'm gonna cause probably a lot of controversy for all three of you who watch my channel, but I think Nintendo has the most appealing first-party games. And another thing about Nintendo is that, like, when a game comes out, you know how they say, like, oh, this is console exclusive and it'll come out on PC. Well, for Nintendo games, there's like no alternative. They're not gonna have like Super Mario on like PC or whatever. You have to play it on the Nintendo console, and it has that going for it. They had Xenoblade Chronicles X or whatever it's called, and I got Xenoblade Chronicles during the time it was really rare for cheap, and now I think the Wii version's cheap again. Maybe it's because of the 3DS, or maybe people played the sequel and it's not as mind-blowing as everybody thought it was. At least it wasn't to me. Like, I was so stoked, like, to finally find this game, and the artwork looked really cool. And I was a fan of Xenogears, which is the original game, and then they came out with Xenosaga Episode 1, 2, and 3 on the PlayStation 2, which was kind of a letdown for me, at least. Felt like more cutscenes in the game, and it didn't capture the same feeling and spirit as Xenogears, which had a lot to do with religion, and there was more just exploration. It felt more like a Square game, and kind of Namco took over for the Xeno Saga games, and then the Xenoblade. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize, but this is how I'm used to hearing the game.
We need help.
Because I've heard some people say Xenoblade or whatever. I honestly don't know which is the right one. I've heard it both ways. But, yeah, I played Xenoblade Chronicles, and it was, it wasn't bad, but it just never captured that feeling. See, now I'm curious about this part of the game where is this supposed to be in the future and we're going back in the past, or was it all a dream? I'm thinking that this is later on in the game, but I don't know, it's kind of weird because it seems like the girl wakes up, but why would this dude switch to a normal ass jacket, and then as you'll see soon, all of a sudden he's like in barbarian armor, and you're like almost like in this medieval village, but right now he's in civilian clothes. So I'm not really understanding what's going on. But again, I'm very early in the game because I'm debating on waiting to get the slightly more expensive PlayStation 3 version, which isn't all that much expensive. It's like $30 at the most. Hardest thing is finding it without ordering it. If I find it, I'll have to get a used copy, but if I order it, I could probably get a brand new copy. I just don't like ordering it. Like, look at this stupid outfit that like this dude wears. Like, he had like a normal coat and stuff, and now he's like dressed like off-brand Conan the Barbarian, like the one you would get like at the dollar store if you couldn't afford the real action figure. And he's like made out of the worst hollow plastic that smells like chemicals, and if you put it in a plastic bag and huff it, you probably could get high. One of the things that I do like about this that I've seen other people mention too is when you walk in the building, some buildings, like the buildings in town, it turns into like this side-scrolling game. Here I am trying to find the button configuration because I'm not used to this game. But it turns into like this side-scrolling game instead of like this 3D game. Like when you go into the library or a big area, it's like a 3D game, but when you're in like the little buildings in town and stuff like that, it turns into this little side-scrolling deal, which is kind of cool. I'm really sorry for the commentary. There's, again, I know I'm a broken record. There's a lot on my mind, and my anxiety has been like out of control lately, so I apologize if I'm like talking really fast and shit like that. It'll eventually subside and everything will go back to normal. That's what happens when you take a lot of stuff in and you keep it to yourself. But yeah, I really dig this game. Check out I don't know, I can't remember what the sequel's called, but the Nier 2 video. It'll get you stoked for this game, and if you want to see more footage of this game, there's other people, and if you want to see more footage of me playing it, let me know. I might wait till I get the PlayStation 3 version, but I'd be happy to show you guys any game you want as long as I have it and or that I'm able to get it or whatever, if I have the money, blah blah blah. And it seems like something I'll be into. But yeah, I appreciate you guys so much for hanging in there with me. I know the last few months the commentary has been all over the place, and I apologize. I couldn't even begin to imagine all the stuff that's taken place within the last few months. Like, every time you think you've been through the ringer, there's like something that's even harder to surmount later on in life. It's like life gradually gives you like steps, and each time you climb one step, the next step's higher, and you're just always trying to adapt and I guess become a better person, I guess. But thank you guys so much for your support. I appreciate it. Definitely check out this game and the sequel. The sequel looks awesome. Thank you guys, and take care.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.